Yes, my name is Simón Vega. I am from El Salvador, and I usually work with sculptural installations and drawings. And in this case, I am also presenting a social sculpture, which is something I've been working for a few years, which has a lot more involvement of the public. I was invited by the curator, Catherine Weir, to do a sculptural installation that would also work as a lounge area and a little bit more like a workshop area. So I'm doing a series of modules and stations that have different purposes and that are only activated when people interact with them. So I'm always interested in Joseph Beuys' concept of social sculpture, which is this sort of textile of social people coming together. The work kind of helps that and brings the people together for the purposes of the workshops and the talks within the show. So the whole installation is separated into 5 different islands, and each has a particular purpose. The sculptural elements then kind of become like furniture, and they are meant to use, and they really come to life when people are using them, such as a reading area, which also will have important text relating to the exhibition. There is a workshop area, which is meant for the talks and people to work on top of them. There is also a water and coffee oasis, and a bartering station, which activates this part of exchange of objects and services between spectators, people in Paris, and also people in Central America. There is also a 5th island in which we are collaborating with 2 other artists that are creating a sensing salon. So it really incorporates the public and other artists within the furniture and sculptural installation. In my work in general, I am interested in mixing opposites and things that normally wouldn't relate to each other. So, for example, first world and third world dynamics and elements, also high-tech spaceships and space modules are here combined with elements from the street, particularly market or nomad markets, known as tianguis. So the way in the streets in El Salvador and Central America, the way people will put their vendor stands, their display elements, which are very modular and easy to take out and move around, have inspired the work, but have also been mixed with the elements from the lunar modules, especially those designed by NASA. So those 2 elements apparently have nothing to do with each other, but in fact they do have some connections. So I try to draw this line or bridge between them, and then try to create new and fresh ideas that also could be kind of humorous. So it's like something also very serious, but also something kind of funny. Something that looks like it could work and technological, but actually doesn't work as such. However, it does have it has considered a series of elements that allows for this to become sort of solutions or technical elements, even though they're not sophisticated as such. Yes, the way I usually work, it kind of has this. I'm really interested within, the streets and the presence and the limitations, but I'm also mixing it a lot with science fiction and elements, like I said, from space, which usually would not correlate. So I am constantly, I live in a town area in the coastal side of El Salvador, very close to the beach. The marketplaces there is something that I am consistently looking at, and I'm really amazed at how people with almost no means, no education, are able to do themselves these elements that are solutions for their survival. So I'm always looking at that and how they will do a street vendor cart. It's so functional the way the cups for a coffee might come out and might play into this, the way the wheels are made for sidewalk climbing and going throughout. And I'm always seeing that through the everyday. And when I'm seeing like science fiction movies, or I am reading elements from science fiction, but not only, also space exploration and historic space exploration, I'm seeing all these similarities and how they could come into play. So for example, in the vendor cards, I am drawing from the street ones in El Salvador and combining them with the Mars rover cards that NASA has put out there in space. Of course, the NASA ones might cost like $42 million, whereas the other ones are made by people. But they are kind of, explorer systems, and they are kind of placing themselves within the space, and that is something that I'm trying to combine. Before I have done a large series of capsules inspired on the space race, because I was interested in knowing how the Cold War related to the historical events in Central America. So in those works, I am also thinking a lot about elements that are common to both. For example, how do you deal with such a small space, within a capsule, and also in a shantytown, very close space? How do you handle human waste, for example, and how that is going to be handled? Oxygen, water, and all these elements are also common. So there are ideas that could be combined and solutions that could be drawn from one to the other. In that sense, I'm always trying to create this bridge where the two will be coming together and something new might come out, which is not supposed to happen. So the very high-tech and very expensive designs from NASA or the Soviet space program are combined with these other elements which hardly have anything and are using a lot of reused materials or repurposed materials. So with the combination of both, I am striving to create this dialogue that is shooting a little bit towards utopia and the future. I think artists in general are positioned in a very particular space within society where we are freed from a lot of limitations and we can operate outside of the norm. In that respect, we can play with one thing and play with other, be in like high class and low class. We can be playing with a lot of technology and can be combining things that don't usually go together. But also, I think we have, or some artists can be looking a lot at the future and have a visualization of what the future can be. And that is something that it's important to offer to society, how things could be, how things could become, what better ways there would be of combining, and to bring this from the abstract world to this is how it could look, this is how a system could work. So for example, in the barter station, what I'm doing is creating work from a very ancient system of exchange, which we don't know now, but it's also in place right now. There's a lot of bartering going on, and it allows you to go in a lot of ways around the main system. So in that, we're proposing this new way of doing things based on the past that could happen now in the future, in the present, and therefore we are able to create this image or this idea of that sort of utopia, which is not only an idealized version, it is also questioning what is happening now, what we are lacking, and what we could be shooting for. For me, it's very important in my work in general, and in the one for this exhibition, is that I think we need to question the main systems. Where are they coming from and who are they benefiting? This is something that I am really interested about. Also the theories of decolonization, in which we see all this system being brought from the westernized world. So in my work, I'm trying for us to revalue the things that are being left to the margins, and also to question what is the accepted thing. And we can draw from our own roots and propose different ways of thinking. So what we find and we don't value as much is something important for me to bring into this stage. And also what is usually considered the best and the highest is also something to look at twice and start questioning if this is really the best way or the only way to do things.